Hey guys, hope you had a good weekend. We are back with another trade review. This morning I was able to trade Moderna and Apple and take a few good profitable trades. Let's go ahead and jump over to the charts and check out the entries. Alright guys, here we are on Apple. We took a nice short this morning on Apple, which turned out to be fairly profitable. I did take one of my favorite entries, which is the loss of VWAP, and it happened right at my favorite time, right around 9:34 to 9:35. I could have taken this trade earlier, well before it got to the VWAP, just because of the push up at the bell. And then, as you can see here, we saw that the volume started taking a turn for the lower side. So that could have been an indicator to where you could jump in on this candle, maybe a breakdown or a loss to continue to move higher. But you know, when I'm trading, I like there to be visual indicators, levels, whatever you want to call them. That way I can have a stop loss in my mind, which is going to coincide with those. So as you can see right here, this was a fairly standard trade this morning. I took my entry here, which was right at the VWAP. The second candle did push back up higher a little bit. It didn't quite get to my stop loss. I took a smaller size in Apple this morning. It wasn't like I was down several hundred, before it went my way. I was down a little bit, but again, I had confidence that we were already moving in this direction, and we were looking at lower candles, so I felt fairly confident in this. Once it lost that level, it continued to move lower for several candles, in which here you can see I started taking my profits, which were right around the R3 line, which would be right at this level. So I went ahead and I took out 3 partials here. And one thing that I did this morning that I don't normally do is I added to a position this early. So even though I had 4 partials here, I actually added to my position here once we got to the 200 EMA. This line, really, a lot of people don't look at it on the 1 minute because of the amount of data it takes for it to calculate everything. But me, honestly, I've seen too many times where candles do respect the 200 in the 1 minute or the 1 minute chart. So I went ahead and added to my position here. So when I did that, it brought my cost average from here and it brought it down to right about here. So once that happened, I went ahead and started partialing out again, and then I took another partial here. And this was my all out entry. Once it came back to the 200, I said, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and take this, make it a profitable trade. I'm not going to give anything back. It did continue to move lower, and as you can see, currently this is where our sell order is right now. So Apple did bounce back up to the R3 Camarillo pivot line and then moved back down. But once I had my entry, I was happy with that trade, especially after adding to the position and it continuing to move down, that way giving me a little bit more profit. It wasn't a huge winner. It was definitely a profitable trade, and again, it fit my criteria to a T, to where I want my entry and have my stop limit, which would have been somewhere around here, and it moved the way I wanted to. So that was a good first trade. Second, we're going to jump over to Moderna mRNA. It made some moves this morning, and it's going to be really interesting to look out. I may take a few minutes to show some levels. Those candles on mRNA respected the EMAs very well this morning, making it a really easy stock to trade, whereas normally it can be really sporadic where the levels are. So I'm going to jump over to RMNA. Let's go have a look. Okay, here we are at Moderna. Now, I did mention this stock yesterday when we were discussing Pfizer, MB, and TX. I wasn't expecting Moderna to have any kind of movement like this morning, but it did, and it had the volume which came in, making it really good to trade. Now, I will say one thing about Moderna. It is another higher price stock like Tesla, so the sizes that I'm going to take on Moderna are not going to be the same as I would take on my normal stocks. Normally, I'm looking to take anywhere between a 300 to 700 share size, depending. It really depends how confident I am in the entry. When I'm trading Moderna or Tesla, the maximum I'm doing is 100 share size. And just because the amount that can move within a single candle is a lot, Based on my risk tolerance, that's about as much as I'm willing to risk. So let's go ahead and have a look. I did take one trade, and it was only a very small trade, but it was absolutely my most profitable. I only took 2 trades this morning, and this one was by far the best one for me. As you can see here, we came in right around 957. I kept my eye on Moderna. It gave back a lot this morning. This is where it opened, which was right around 448.5, which was around the S1 pivot line. I know there's a lot of lines on the screen right now, and that is one of the things you want to look for with the Camarillas is when they're compressed, you have a very narrow range, which means once it lost S3, and we're going to go ahead and look at that S3 line, which was here, you saw the breakdown, and once it lost that, it made a huge move, and it completely lost S4. It came back up and tried to test S4, but it just couldn't. It couldn't move past it. So it just, and again, that was pretty much the end of Moderna this morning. I was busy trading Apple, so unfortunately I didn't trade Moderna. This one right here could have paid the bills for a month in a 30-minute time range. One trade here at VWAP, you saw here where it did try to go touch VWAP. If I'd have been looking at this and taken my short, I could have literally just sat on this all day and, you know, like I said, paid rent. Unfortunately, I didn't, but what I did, I was really patient this morning. I had a lot of things on my mind going through, so I wasn't really trigger happy this morning. I wanted to wait for a very confident setup. So what I did is I watched Moderna move down, and I followed the 9 EMA, which it looked like it held right below all the way down through this move here. Now, when we got it here, this is where I started drawing this trend line. And this, I drew a trend line from here and went straight down through here. So when I saw the trend line touch these 2 candles right here, I kind of followed this line here, and we already had this level, which was a previous level. And also, I will show you, this is where I, honestly, before I moved this down, this is where I had it originally. So you can see we had 4 touches here, and then it came back up. I put the trend line here, and this was the area. Once it moved lower than this, you know, where everything met, and we had this huge red candle, that was really my kind of telltale signs. I saw it touching the 9 EMA here, and it just could not break through the 9 and hold. It would push past it a little bit, but it just wasn't holding. It wasn't closing above it, basically. So I gave it time to make another bounce. It pulled up, and that is when I started seeing red on the next candle. And you know, you saw these 3 green but very low volume candles. The next one is where I said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I already had, this was my stop loss right here. This 425.99, 426 was my stop loss. And my entry was right around, let's see if we can get the price. It was right here, which was around 424.30. And once it went down, I basically used the low of these candles right here as where I was just going to say, screw it, I'm taking my profit. So that's what I did. I just took one trade. I didn't partial out. I just hit the sell key, and I made about, let's see, it was around 424. Let's say 424.10, and then I sold right around 421.50. So it was a really nice trade. Again, it only takes one of those to go ahead and let you hit your profit target for the day. You know, I will say my regrets are I didn't get in earlier. I was too busy watching Apple, but with the volume that was on Apple, I really wanted to trade Apple this morning. There was just so much volume. I think it was like 1.5 million before the bell rang. So, you know, I didn't really kick myself that much because Apple just, it was too easy to trade this morning. So that's where we are on Moderna. I also want to show you some levels because I kept watching Moderna, and I want to show you a few places where Moderna followed the EMAs to a T and allowed a lot of good setups if I were going to take them. So let's check those out. So this was a really good level for Moderna this morning. As I was watching, here you can see that these candles respected the 9 EMA very closely. Now, what happens once something closes above what was previously resistance is that line becomes support, which is exactly what you see here. The next candle opened here at the 9 and then it went above here. And I want to zoom in a little bit so you can see it a little bit better here. But once it went through, let's get rid of those. Once it went through this 9 EMA, which was over here, then it became support. It was no longer resistance. And once it became support, you can see that it didn't go through here and it continued to move higher. And it came back a little bit here, used that line that we had previously used, and it used that as resistance. And it bounced, or I'm sorry, it used that as support and bounced higher off of that. Now, here is where things got really interesting. I want to bring to your attention the 50 SMA, which is this green dotted line which moved down this way. And then it started curving back up right around 1030, 1040, 1045. Look how many times these candles touched this. It bounced off of the 9 and went right here, and then here it touched, close here, touched, couldn't hold it, tried to break through, touched. That would have been a perfect entry for Moderna. Would have been right here. Once you saw that Moderna was respecting the 50 but couldn't break through, go ahead and take the short and look what happens. It completely bails on it. Now again, you would have needed to take your profits quickly because you can see that everybody said, okay, if you're going to sell off, we're going to buy that back up. But that is a beautiful example of how a stock can, for almost 10 minutes, completely respect one EMA. And everybody is looking at the same level, trading with the same mentality. And this, let's see who's going to fold first. Were the bears going to win and push it lower, or were the bulls going to win, cause everybody to cover their shorts? And if that would have happened, what we would have saw is, instead of this movement, we would have saw a close above the 50 SMA, and then you would have seen this, but it would have been this way. So it's really fun to watch, and that's why you have to be careful and you have to be patient. You can't have FOMO and say, oh, let me jump in this real quick, because you never know what's going to happen. You just have to know how to read the tape and kind of jump in there. But I thought that was really interesting, just how it respected that 50 SMA for that long. Obviously, you see, I didn't trade it. I was just sitting back and watching at this point in time. And lastly, I just wanted to point out how we found value once it moved up. And Moderna basically held on right above the 9. Once it went across the 9, I'm going to use the big marker this way. You can see a little bit clearer. But I'm going to follow the 9 here. And that's, you know, that could have been your stop loss for a good 20 minutes. So it's really good to see the levels. I just wanted to point that out, even though I didn't trade anything else on Moderna this morning. I just wanted to give you kind of an idea of what I was looking at. It was a really interesting morning. I had some stuff going on. I did take the day off, but I was able to make 2 really profitable trades and have a good Monday. Hope you guys enjoy this, and I look forward to the next trading content. Take care.